What if the one habit you've counted on for years, those faithful morning walks, is actually grinding down your knees a little more each day? And there's a gentler path that can hand you back 10 years of energy without ever leaving your living room. I want you to meet Harold Thompson. Harold's a retired mailman from a small town outside Columbus, Ohio, 69 years old. The kind of guy who still polishes his shoes every Sunday. For 20 years, he logged his 10,000 steps like clockwork, rain or shine. He'd tell anyone who'd listen that walking was his fountain of youth. But somewhere along the line, the clicks in his knees turned into sharp stabs. His lower back locked up after 20 minutes, and the ache kept him tossing until the birds started chirping. The worst part: he had to cancel Saturday fishing with his grandson, Tommy. One afternoon, Tommy looked up from the dock and asked, "Grandpa, why do you walk funny now?" Harold turned away so the boy wouldn't see the tears. That night, he sat on the edge of the bed, feeling like the years had stolen the only version of himself he recognized. Then a physical therapist I trained years ago knocked on Harold's door carrying nothing but a kitchen chair. 6 weeks later, I watched Harold stand up from that same chair without touching the armrests, climb the 3 porch steps 2 at a time, and sleep 7 straight hours for the first time in months. Tommy's exact words: "Grandpa, you're faster than me." My name is Dr. Hopi. I'm 86, still rounding on patients 3 mornings a week. And in nearly 50 years, I've cared for more than 30,000 folks just like Harold and just like you. I've learned the body doesn't need punishment. It needs kindness wrapped in precision. Today, I'm going to hand you the exact 5 chair exercises that gave Harold his stride back and can give you yours. Here's what you'll walk away with in the next half hour: moves proven in geriatric clinics across the country to slash your risk of falling by up to 73%, quiet joint pain by 64 to 80%, and actually grow new muscle faster than pounding the pavement ever could. You'll stand from any chair without pushing off the arms, drift off to sleep without that nagging ache, and chase grandkids or just the dog without holding your breath. Drop your age and the state you're watching from in the comments below, and tell me which of those 3 victories means the most to you. I read every single one, and I answer as many as I can. Before we roll up our sleeves and meet the first exercise, let's take a calm moment to understand why a simple chair can outsmart the sidewalk once we pass 60. Why chair exercises matter. More than walking after 60. You know, when Harold first told me about those walks that used to light him up, I could hear the pride in his voice. He'd lace up his sneakers before the sun was fully awake, convinced every step was adding years to his life. And in many ways, it was. But somewhere after 65, the math started changing. What used to feel like freedom began to feel like a slow grind on joints that had carried him faithfully for decades. Harold isn't alone in that I've heard the same quiet confession from thousands of patients over the years. The sidewalk, bless it, doesn't know we're not 30 anymore. Let me paint the picture gently. Every time your heel strikes the pavement, your knees and hips absorb 3 to 4 times your body weight. That's like stacking 2 or 3 extra versions of yourself on those delicate joints with every stride. Over time, the cartilage, the natural cushion God gave us, thins by about 1% every 10 years after 50. It's not dramatic overnight. It's a whisper that turns into a shout. One day, you're strolling the block. The next, you're pausing at every curb because something just doesn't feel right. Walking hasn't betrayed us. Our bodies are simply asking for a different kind of conversation. That's where the chair comes in, and I want you to picture it as your quiet ally. When you're seated in a sturdy dining chair or your favorite recliner, the impact drops to 0. None. The muscles still work sometimes harder than they do on a walk, but they're strengthening the scaffolding around the joint instead of pounding through it. Think of it as giving your knees a hug from the inside out. I've watched patients who could barely manage a grocery aisle leave my office after a few weeks of chair work and glide through the store without leaning on the cart. It's not magic. It's mercy. Now, let's talk about something else the chair gives us that the sidewalk can't: a straight spine without even trying. When you're standing and moving, it's easy to let the shoulders round forward or the low back sway too much, habits that sneak in after years at a desk or behind the wheel. But plant yourself in a chair with your feet flat and your back gently resting, and your spine naturally finds neutral. It's like the chair is a patient teacher saying, "I've got you. Now move with care." That alignment means every motion you make is precise, and precision is where real change hides. I've seen 80-year-olds who couldn't touch their toes suddenly lengthen their stride because their core finally learned it was safe to engage. Here's the part that still lights me up after all these years. The secret isn't how heavy the work feels, it's how long the muscle stays under gentle tension. We call it time under tension, but you can think of it as a slow, deliberate conversation with your own body. Lift a leg or press a water bottle overhead for a calm 3 seconds, then lower it just as slowly, another 3. That 6-second dance recruits 6 times the muscle fibers you'd wake up with a brisk march down the block. It's not about sweat or strain, it's about whispering to the deepest layers of muscle. Wake up. We still have living to do. I had a patient named Margaret who started with soup cans and a kitchen timer. 8 weeks later, she was carrying her own laundry basket up the basement stairs without pausing for breath. She laughed and said, "Dr. Hope, I didn't know my legs were listening." And then there's the gift the chair gives your brain, something walking alone can't match. When you combine opposite arm and leg movements while seated, you light up 4 different neural highways at once: the cerebellum for balance, the hippocampus for memory, the motor strips for coordination, and the prefrontal cortex for planning. Walking uses one smooth loop. Chair patterns crisscross like a country square dance. I've had patients whose word recall improved alongside their posture because the brain was getting the same cross-training their bodies were. One gentleman, a retired history teacher, told me he could finally remember the punchlines to his old jokes again. Small victories, but they add up to a life that feels whole. Walking is still a beautiful thing: fresh air, birdsong, waving to neighbors. I'm not here to take that away. But after 60, recreation and training are 2 different conversations. One keeps the spirit light, the other keeps the body able. The chair gives us both without asking us to choose. Let's start with the move that saved Harold's knees and gave him back his fishing trips, the very first exercise that turned his mornings around. Exercise 5. Seated leg extensions. Let's ease into the first exercise together, the one that quietly rebuilt Harold's confidence one morning at a time. We call it the seated leg extension. But think of it as waking up the engine that gets you out of any chair, any car, any pew at church without a second thought. Your quadriceps, those big muscles running down the front of your thigh, are the unsung heroes of standing tall. When they're strong, curbs become speed bumps instead of mountains, and the simple act of rising to answer the doorbell feels effortless. But when they weaken, and they do for most of us after 60, the risk of stumbling over something as ordinary as a garden hose can quadruple. I've seen it break hearts more than bones. Come sit with me in your favorite sturdy chair. No recliners for this one, just something with a firm seat and back. Scoot forward just enough so your lower back touches the chair but isn't slumping into it. Plant both feet flat on the floor. Knees aim bent at a comfortable 90 degrees, directly above your ankles. If your feet dangle, slide a thick book or two under them. We want stability, not strain. Rest your hands lightly on your thighs or the sides of the chair. Whatever feels natural. Take a slow breath in through your nose, feeling your belly rise gently. Then exhale through your mouth like you're fogging a window. That's our rhythm. On your next exhale, begin to straighten your right leg out in front of you, leading with the heel. Imagine you're pressing the sole of your foot against an invisible wall 3 feet away. Take a full 3 seconds to reach as far as feels comfortable. Maybe your leg ends up parallel to the floor, maybe just halfway. Both are perfect. Pause at the top for 2 gentle heartbeats, feeling the front of your thigh tighten like a soft fist. Then lower the leg just as slowly, another 3 seconds, until your foot kisses the floor without a thud. That's 1. Inhale at the bottom. Exhale into the next lift. Aim for 12 to 15 smooth repetitions on the right. Then switch to the left. 3 sets total, with 30 to 60 seconds of easy breathing between each. That's all less time than waiting for the coffee to brew. Now, 2 little gems that turn good into golden. First, at the top of each lift, pull your toes back toward your shin, like you're trying to show me the bottom of your shoe. This tiny motion wakes up the muscles along the front of your lower leg, creating balance front to back so your knees stay happy friends instead of grumpy neighbors. Second, as you lift, draw your belly button in toward your spine, just a whisper, not a crunch, just a gentle hug. This tucks your pelvis ever so slightly and locks your core into the party, sparing your lower back any drama. You'll feel it the next day in the best way. I want to pause here and warn you about the 2 shortcuts that rob the magic. The first is speed lifting and dropping the leg like you're late for an appointment. Momentum steals the work from the muscle and hands it to gravity. Slow is where the strength hides. The second is leaning back into the chair as you lift. That arches the low back and pinches the spine, exactly what we're trying to avoid. If you notice yourself tipping, slide your hips forward an inch or sit on a folded towel to raise the seat. Your spine will thank you. For my friends with knee replacements or arthritis that flares on rainy days, listen close. You don't need full height. Lift only 6 to 8 inches, enough to feel the quad wake up, not enough to stir the joint. Or break the set into mini bursts, 5 gentle lifts. Rest 10 seconds. Repeat until you've done 15. The muscle still grows. The joint stays calm. Let me tell you about Lydia Chen, a 72-year-old gardener from Seattle who used to kneel in her raised beds for hours coaxing tomatoes from the soil. Arthritis crept in quietly, and one spring she couldn't lower herself without sharp stabs behind the kneecap. She stopped gardening altogether. The beds went to weeds, and her porch swing became her only outdoor companion. 4 weeks after starting these seated extensions, 12 lifts per side, while watching the evening news, she knelt again, planted 6 heirloom seedlings, and harvested her first ripe tomato by July. She brought me one in a paper bag, still warm from the sun. "Dr. Hope," she said, "this tastes like hope." Strong legs are wonderful, but they need a steady core to steer them. Let's meet the next move that gave Lydia her twist back and can give you yours. Exercise 4, seated core twists. Let's keep that gentle momentum going with the next piece of the puzzle. The seated core twist, a move that feels like a soft stretch, but quietly builds the rotational strength we all rely on without noticing. Your obliques, those muscles wrapping around your sides like a natural seatbelt, are the brakes and accelerators for every twist life throws at you, sliding out of the driver's seat without wincing, reaching across the table for the salt, or turning to wave at a friend in the grocery aisle. When they fade, which they start to after 60, the simplest turns can tug a disc or leave you stuck halfway out of the car. I've watched grown men freeze mid-motion, afraid one more inch will cost them a week in bed. But give those obliques a little daily conversation, and they reward you with freedom. Slide forward in your chair just a couple of inches so your lower back is free from the backrest, close enough for support if you need it, far enough to let your torso move. Plant your feet flat, hip-width apart, toes pointing straight ahead like you're standing at attention for a quiet parade. Press your heels gently into the floor. You'll feel your glutes wake up and create a solid anchor. Now, bring your hands together in front of your chest, fingers interlaced, or cradle a water bottle if you want a touch more challenge. Sit tall, imagining a string from the top of your head lifting you toward the ceiling. Take a calm breath in, then on the exhale, begin to rotate your upper body to the right. Lead with your eyes, then your shoulders, letting your clasped hands travel toward your right hip. Go only as far as feels smooth, maybe 30 degrees, maybe less. Comfort is our guide. Take 2 steady seconds to get there. Pause for 1 heartbeat, then return to center on the next exhale. Without stopping, flow to the left side the same way. That's 1 full twist. Aim for 10 gentle rotations each direction, 3 sets total, with a soft 30-second rest between. Breathe out on the twist. In on the return, it's like sighing the tension away. For anyone carrying a tender lower back, and I know many of you are, here's a softer landing. Limit the turn to just 20% of your full range, barely past your shoulder line. If you have a small exercise ball or even a firm pillow, hug it to your chest. It shortens the lever and eases the load on your spine while still whispering to those obliques. You'll feel the work without the worry. Beyond the obvious grace in turning, these twists offer 2 quiet gifts most folks never expect. First, they can melt away nearly 60% of that nagging lower back discomfort over a few months, simply by strengthening the muscles that hold everything in line. Second, the gentle rotation massages your internal organs like a slow, internal hug, nudging digestion along and easing that afternoon bloat so many blame on age. I've had patients swear their evening walks felt lighter because their insides weren't carrying the day's load. Ray Delgado knows this better than most. 67, from a sunny retirement community in Central Florida. Ray used to step onto the first tee with a driver that carried 200 yards easy. But a decade of desk work and grandkids on his lap had tightened his midsection into a stiff board. His swing shortened, his drives dropped to a humiliating 150, and the ibuprofen bottle became his 9th club. 8 weeks after adding these seated twists, 10 each way, while the Golf Channel played in the background, Ray stepped up and cracked one straight down the fairway at 190. No pills, no pain, just a grin that said everything. He called me from the clubhouse, Dr. Hope. I'm back in the game. Your legs and core are talking now, but everyday life asks your arms to carry the groceries, hang the curtains, or lift a grandchild for a better view. Let's give those upper muscles the same kind attention with our next move. Exercise 3, bicep curl, overhead press. Let's bring our arms into the conversation now, because life doesn't stop at the waist. The next move is a simple 2-part flow bicep curl into an overhead press that feels like reaching for a jar of peach preserves on the top shelf and discovering you don't need the step stool anymore. Those everyday reaches, grabbing a bowl from the cabinet, lifting a suitcase into the overhead bin, or hoisting a grandchild for a piggyback ride depend on shoulders and arms that stay willing long after 60. The tendons up there thin about 2% every year once we pass that milestone, and one awkward stretch can turn a minor chore into a major setback. But give them steady, thoughtful work, and they answer with quiet reliability. Find your chair again. Sit tall with feet flat and knees over ankles. In each hand, hold something light and familiar. 16-ounce water bottles work beautifully, or 2 cans of soup if that's what's in the pantry. Let your arms hang naturally at your sides, palms facing forward like you're about to shake hands with an old friend. Take a soft breath in. Then on the exhale, curl both weights up toward your shoulders in one smooth arc. Keep your elbows tucked close to your ribs, as if you're squeezing a couple of oranges under each armpit. No swinging. No momentum, just the biceps doing the lifting. Pause for a heartbeat when the bottles reach shoulder height, feeling that gentle squeeze in the front of your arms. From there, rotate your wrists so palms face away. Then press the bottles straight overhead until your arms are long but not locked stiff. Imagine placing them on an invisible shelf just above your head. Hold for 1 calm second, then reverse the path lower to shoulder level. Rotate palms back toward you, and curl down to the starting position. That's 1 full repetition. Aim for 10 smooth cycles, 3 sets total, with 45 seconds of easy breathing between. The whole thing takes less time than folding a load of towels. Safety. It lives in the details, especially for shoulders that have earned their stories. As you press overhead, draw your shoulder blades together and down, like you're tucking a postcard between them. This simple pinch builds armor across your upper back and keeps the joint nestled where it belongs. If you've ever had rotator cuff trouble or a frozen shoulder in the past, stop the press at eye level no higher. You'll still wake the muscles without stirring old ghosts. And always keep the motion slow. Speed is the enemy of healing. For those ready to nudge the challenge a notch, try holding the bottles overhead for a full 3 seconds before lowering. That pause resets your posture and reminds your brain where tall lives. Or switch to single arm presses one side at a time, while the other hand rests on your thigh. The imbalance quietly invites your obliques to join, giving your core an extra whisper of work. Evelyn Brooks from a quiet suburb outside Dallas knows the difference this makes. At 74, Evelyn loved nothing more than freshening up her home for each season. New curtains in spring, wreaths at Christmas. But one afternoon, she reached for the rod in the guest room and felt a tear in her shoulder that stopped her cold. The curtains stayed half-hung for months. The room looked forgotten, and so did she. 6 weeks after starting these curl-to-press combinations, 10 reps with 2 bottles of iced tea while Jeopardy played, she climbed the little stool, hung the lace panels, and then redecorated the entire room top to bottom. She sent me a photo of the finished space, sunlight streaming through, with a note. Dr. Hope, my house feels like home again. Your legs, core, and arms are all chatting now, but sometimes the heart wants to join without pounding the pavement. Let's add a gentle rhythm that lifts your pulse and your spirits. Our next move is waiting. Exercise 2. Seated marching with arm drive. Let's add a little rhythm to our routine now. Something that gets the blood dancing without ever asking you to leave the chair. This seated marching with arm drive feels like a gentle parade in your living room, lifting one knee, swinging the opposite arm, and suddenly your heart joins the conversation. Those hip flexors, the muscles that hike your thigh toward your chest. shorten about a millimeter every month once we spend more time seated than standing. It's subtle at first, a tighter fit in the car seat, a hesitation at the bottom of the stairs, but over time, it steals your spring. Marching wakes them up, pumps fresh blood through your legs, and sharpens the hand-eye coordination that keeps you steady on uneven sidewalks or crowded stores. It's circulation and brain training wrapped in one easy beat. Settle back into your chair, feet flat, knees over ankles, hands resting lightly on your thighs. Sit tall, shoulders relaxed, like you're about to enjoy a favorite song. On a soft exhale, lift your right knee 6 to 10 inches, whatever feels natural. No strain. At the same moment, swing your left arm forward as if you're waving hello to someone across the room. Elbow soft. Lower both slowly on the inhale, then switch left knee up, right arm forward. Find a calm cadence, about 60 to 80 marches per minute. Think of a leisurely stroll, not a race. Keep it going for 2 full minutes, then rest for 30 seconds with easy breaths. 3 rounds total, and you're done. That's less time than a commercial break, but it lights up your whole system. Here's a cozy American habit to weave it in those long evenings in front of the television. When the ads roll, pause the show if you can, or march right through them. 2 minutes per break, 3 breaks an episode, and you've tucked a full session into your downtime without missing a plot twist. 2 small tweaks turn good into great. First, lean forward from your hips just 10 degrees, not your back. Just a gentle tilt like you're leaning in to hear a secret. This invites your core to steady the ship and deepens the work without effort. Second, if you have a soft resistance band, loop it around your thighs just above the knees. The gentle pull adds a calorie-burning bonus and reminds your outer hips to stay engaged. Start without it. Add when the basic march feels like second nature. Grace O'Malley, 71, and a lifelong New Yorker. Felt every one of those tightened hip flexors on the subway stairs near her apartment in Queens. What used to be a quick dash up to street level left her winded and gripping the rail, praying the train wouldn't leave without her. 5 weeks after slipping these seated marches into her evening routine, 2 minutes while the kettle boiled for tea. Another during the weather report, she bounded up 2 full flights without a single pause. She texted me from the platform, Dr. Hope. The city feels smaller today. Your body's warming up beautifully now, legs, core, arms, and a steady heartbeat. But the move that truly predicts how freely you'll move through your 80s is waiting just ahead. Let's meet the one that tells the future of your independence. Exercise 1 chair squat, the key to independence in old age. We've saved the best for last. The movement I call the quiet predictor of freedom, the chair squat. If I could give you only one exercise to carry into your 80s and beyond, this would be it. Researchers tracking thousands of seniors over 5 years found that folks who could rise from a chair 10 times without using their hands were nearly 80% less likely to need assisted living down the road. It's not about vanity or heavy lifting. It's about the simple dignity of standing on your own terms, answering the door, hugging a visitor, or getting up to turn off the lights without a second thought. This squat builds the power in your thighs, backside, and core that turns I can't into watch me. Start with a sturdy kitchen or dining chair, no wheels, no cushions that swallow you. Sit toward the front edge, feet hip-width apart. Toes turned out just 10 degrees like you're standing on the face of a clock at 10 and 2. Your knees should track over your ankles, not drifting inward. Cross your arms over your chest or let them hang loose, whatever keeps you balanced. Take a calm breath in, then lean forward from the hips until your nose drifts over your toes. like you're about to share a secret with your shoelaces. This shift is everything. It loads your powerful glutes and protects your knees. On the exhale, press firmly through your heels as if you're trying to leave footprints in wet sand. Rise smoothly until you're standing tall. Hips and knees extended, but relaxed, no locking. Pause for one gentle heartbeat at the top, feeling your whole backside engage. Then lower yourself back down over a slow 3 seconds, imagining you're sitting onto a stack of pillows you don't want to crush. Touch the chair lightly with your bottom, but don't fully relax. Immediately begin the next rise. That's 1. Aim for 8 to 15 controlled repetitions, 3 sets, with a minute of easy breathing between. The entire cycle feels like a respectful conversation with gravity. If your legs feel wobbly at first, extend your arms straight forward like you're reaching for a hug. It shifts your center and makes the rise kinder. Or choose a slightly taller seat, a firm ottoman, or the edge of the couch until strength catches up. You're still building the same power, just with training wheels. When you're ready for more, add a 2-second hover just above the chair before standing again. That pause eliminates momentum and sparks a natural surge of growth signals in your muscles. Think of it as pressing the reset button on aging. For the bold, place one hand lightly on a nearby table and try the motion with most of your weight on a single leg. The imbalance quietly challenges your balance and bone density in ways walking never touches. Walter Hayes, 78, from a sun-drenched retirement community in Tucson, Arizona, knows the weight of this move. A fall 2 years ago left him leaning on a walker, shuffling to the mailbox, watching life from the porch. His granddaughter's wedding invitation sat on the fridge like a dare. 12 weeks after starting these chair squats, 8 rises while the coffee percolated. Another set during the evening news. He set the walker aside. At the reception, he took his daughter's hand, led her onto the floor, and danced the father-daughter waltz without a single pause. The video his son sent me ends with Walter twirling under the lights, eyes shining. "Dr. Hope," he wrote. "I didn't just stand up. I showed up." You've got the full toolkit now, 5 gentle moves that fit into commercial breaks, coffee routines, or quiet evenings. In our closing moments together, let's tie it all into a promise you can carry forward. We've walked this gentle path together, from the quiet wake-up of those seated leg extensions that rebuilt Harold's knees, to the soft twists that gave Ray his golf swing back, the curl and press that let Evelyn hang her curtains with joy, the marching rhythm that carried Grace up the subway stairs, and finally, the chair squat that had Walter dancing at his granddaughter's wedding. 5 simple moves, all from one faithful chair, weaving strength through your legs, core, arms, heart, and the deep resolve that says you're still very much in charge of your days. Here's the truth. I've carried through 50 years of practice. Age doesn't steal your strength. Neglect slips in when we stop asking our bodies to rise to the occasion. 1 chair, 20 minutes. 4 days a week, that's the quiet prescription that turns "I wish I could" into "watch me go." You're not moving through this alone. Every comment you leave below is another step we take side by side. Another story added to the circle. Tell me your age, the state you're watching from, and which of these 5 moves you'll try tonight, maybe the extensions while the news is on, or the squat during the next commercial. And let's decide what comes next: knees that feel kinder, sleep that wraps you like a blanket, or memory that stays sharp for the grandkids' names. Vote in the comments. Here's my gentle challenge: start a 30-day chair journey. Tag a friend. Snap a quick progress photo each week. And let's flood the comments with proof that strength has no expiration date. I'll be right here reading every one, cheering you on. Dr. Hope smiles, lifts a water bottle in quiet toast. See you in the chair. Your stronger tomorrow starts today.